Hello, I'm Kavitha Mariappan, Chief Transformation Officer of Rubrik, and you're watching Sachin Syal's The Ochakte Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Ochakte Show. We're Silicon Valley's first business, tech, and self-improvement podcast for teens, hosted by a teen me. I'm Sachin Syal. I'm a 19-year-old award-winning entrepreneur, podcaster, author, and student from the Bay Area, and I interview remarkable and influential entrepreneurs, executives, investors, leaders, and inspiring individuals from all walks of life so we can learn from their stories and level up ourselves. And I'm also the co-founder and CMO of 3doshas.com, which is a coaching company that I started which transforms lives with 3 doshas, ancient science from India. And the purpose of this show is to inspire you to go for it, which is what the Punjabi word ochakte means. Today, our very special guest is Kavitha Mariappan, who is the Chief Transformation Officer of Rubrik, which is one of my favorite companies. Kavitha leads Rubrik's efforts to accelerate enterprise transformation and deepen executive engagement with the focus on expanding Rubrik's footprint across the Global 2000 and public sector decision makers. She partners across the GTM organization, shaping Rubrik's CXO narrative, championing value economics and unlocking new revenue streams. And before Rubrik, Kavitha was the EVP of Customer Experience and Transformation at Zscaler. She was the VP and first CMO of Databricks. She was the CMO of Split, and she also worked at Cisco. She holds a Bachelor's of Engineering and Electronics and Communications Engineering with honors from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Australia, and then she also has an MS in Cybersecurity Risk and Strategy from the NYU School of Law and the Tandon School of Engineering. Kavitha is one of the most prominent, legendary, and iconic women executives in tech, AI, and business, and she's an absolutely amazing standout trailblazer. So, hello. Welcome to the Ochakte Show.
Thank you for having me with that kind of introduction.
It reminds you how amazing you are, right? Usually, how are you? What's new and exciting in your life right now? Anything you're looking forward to?
I'm excited about where we are right now. I mean, we're sitting here in the Silicon Valley, the heart of the Silicon Valley, beating heart, and you know, navigating sort of these early innings of the AI revolution, AI transformation. There's probably no better place to be than this.
It's exciting. I feel very grateful to be a young person alive in this whole thing, and it's just
totally,
awesome.
Totally. You know, I think for any generation, right, that as we see. The World Economic Forum calls AI, this moment with AI, our fourth industrial revolution.
It is that.
Not many people get to have worked through 2 industrial revolutions in their career lifetime, like, you know, the internet and this, and it's incredible.
Yeah, I wasn't born.
Yes, so I know.
For me, this is like...
It's incredible.
Amazing. And I feel so grateful I'm in the Silicon Valley, not just because I do the podcast, but the network here of people, all the tech companies are headquartered here, all the universities are promoting AI. It's just fascinating stuff. I'm curious, what brought you here? Let's take it back. I ask all my guests this. Mm-hmm. What were your teen years like? What was teenage Kavitha like? What drew you to tech and ultimately ending up in the Silicon Valley? Teenage
Kavitha grew up in a very Indian household in Australia.
Nice.
With, parents were middle class, hardworking middle class parents. We actually didn't have much growing up, so... Mm-hmm. Immigrant family, we had to find our place. In Australia, things were expensive. We didn't obviously speak the way the locals spoke, our customs. And so, teenage Kavitha was about making sure, my parents had made this big leap to leave our family, and to raise us in Australia, that we would do them proud. Yeah. So it was a lot of sort of shouldering family responsibilities because parents had to work. And help out with, a lot of chores and help out with, helping raise my little brother. But it was a lot of school and was also part-time jobs. We needed to supplement income. And so I worked a couple of jobs. I waited tables, I tutored, I did all kinds of things. And I was a math science nerd. That was kind of my happy place. And so... Wow. I suppose early childhood to early teenagehood was a lot of tinkering, a lot of building systems and things like that, and studied math science. And then I would say 11th grade, fell in love with physics and never been taught physics the right way. So I kind of hated physics. And then I had a physics teacher in high school that absolutely altered the course of my life and that of my family's, right? Because I was strong math. Strong in chem, strong in bio, and obviously languages, but physics was just this thing I couldn't see. And I think after his class, I really realized I wanted to go build something. I wanted to be an engineer. And then that's when
amazing.
I decided I applied to go to engineering school. And it just so happened at that time, again, early 90s, they were the core disciplines, right? Electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, et cetera. And then electrical engineering was starting to bifurcate, to introduce computer systems and electronic engineering, so like low voltage, right, systems. And so I obviously took the path less traveled, which scared the hell out of my dad. One, no engineering. I was supposed to be a doctor. Two, what is this new field? You're never going to get a job. And so I did. And it just so happened at the time that I graduated, so many opportunities were opening up in kind of that field. And I have this, I've had this incredible journey.
Talk about hustling early in your life, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like most people, when they see executives like you, they're like, oh my God, like, I wish I can be that person, but they don't see all the work that happened in the early years. Also, I love what you said. This is great because a lot of the people listening are college-aged people. I love how you said that it's because the teacher, you actually found a new love for physics.
You did.
So did you originally not like it?
Yeah, I did physics. Like I would learn physics, right? I didn't see physics. I didn't see the third dimension. I didn't enjoy it. It was the formula. Yeah. Right. It was like solving equations and problems. Where it's like I couldn't get it with the experiments, and I did it. Obviously, I was worked hard enough that you always get through, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the epiphany came from like the way he taught me physics. I saw an entire new dimension that I had never experienced. I did. I was like, it's the abstract. It's the what you can't see.
Educators are important.
Absolutely,
the professors you have, the mentors.
They change the course of everything. They make you fall in love. People learn differently, right? And so finding an educator that can just resonate with a student, really, I think it's a huge responsibility and changes people's lives. Opens so many doors.
100%.
So.
When you were in that phase of your life, when you were, becoming passionate about physics, working many jobs, did you, because I know a lot of successful people say they know from their teens that they're going to make it and they're going to be something big. Did you know when you were my age or younger, a little older, that you would make it this far? Or is it like,
no.
Be honest.
No, very great question.
Because I feel like these kids, I feel like you guys, even when you were young, you were so bright that you already knew that something was great will happen, or was it just natural?
No, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an astronaut, okay?
Okay.
But laugh all you want.
So you want to be an astronaut? Dad wants you to be a doctor then.
Yeah, of course Dad wants me to be a doctor, right? Exactly, right? And so I remember going to my dad, and I'm like third grade, and I'm like, I want to be an astronaut. He goes, listen, you have to be an engineer, have to be a boy, and you have to be an American.
There's an Indian lady who went to space.
I know. Yeah. So years later, I'm like, I am an American.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer. I'm a boy. But, America was the beginning of so many opportunities. But, before I came to the U.S., my first job out of college was I have a solutions architect, systems engineer. I lived in Australia. So, 6 months into, I would say, being, in the office, learning, had this incredible opportunity to go work on a project in the UK with a senior, person on the team. Yeah. And I think because I was so flexible, and these were I was willing to take on these very difficult projects. All of a sudden, I came back and I was the engineer they wanted. And then all of a sudden, I was in China. I was everywhere, right? I was taking on these really complex projects, going out by myself to foreign countries where travel at that time wasn't so easy professionally, right? Yeah. And these 2-week projects would extend out sometimes to be 2 months on site. There were no female bathrooms, for example. And you were in these random places, but just getting through it, and I would make mistakes. I remember early career, we shipped a system across that we were integrating in London, actually out of Oxford, and they shipped us the one line card they had built that come through customs from the U.S., and I had put it into the chassis. I had tested everything. And this is going back to the 90s, where these chassis were actually auto-sensing. See, line cards were auto-sensing. I didn't flip the voltage. So, it came from the US 110, or in the UK 230 volts. I fried the whole system, and I was the only girl in the head end that day. And everyone looked at me, and I was just I cried. So one time I've cried at work.
Oh, wow.
In 30 plus years. And I
cried too.
realized, I mean, it's okay to cry, but it was this, I'm like, everyone's thinking, well, I send the girl to do what,
Do you think that
anyone
motivated
else.
you more and though to
It did. It pushed me to be like, I need to be more thorough. Absolutely not. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the biggest idiot, right? And
But you learn from the mistakes.
You do, right? I'm like, I have to be super thorough. I have to work a lot harder. And I think I also realized that the more I leaned into that, people embraced it, and then the only girl in the room thing never became a problem. I was just the only person, the one of the team, right?
Yeah.
So I realized, like all I need to do is be really good at what I am, the task at hand, be better, and that takes work. That works, that takes like a lot of practice work, and so I just like did it, and I took on the more difficult projects. I guess I was never content with status quo. Right?
Oh, I love that. Never content with the status quo.
I know. I was
that
always
sounds so badass. I love it.
It is. So for me, I wanted to here's the thing. I wanted to wear wanted to dress up nice. I wanted to go into an office.
Why
I
not?
wanted to be this badass, leader. And
you have to have that mindset, though.
You have to have that mindset.
If you don't have that mindset, how do you manifest it?
Exactly.
If you don't think yourself in that way, you're not going to be that.
And nothing gets in the way, of that goal. But what I learned through the process was, who are the people you're going to take along for the ride over the years, right?
That too, when you do so well, you help so many other people, and you inspire people. And great leaders inspire people.
And learn from each other. I mean, and then it has actually become a core management philosophy for me is to hire people infinitely better than me and who fill the gaps of what my deficiencies are. That's what makes a really strong team. Leaders who are threatened by people that know more than them or better than them, actually, that's a real problem, right?
100%.
If all of us are human. We're good at so many things. There's so many things that we still have to learn, have gaps in, and how do you build out a team that way? Mm-hmm. So these were all the things I started to learn, the big difference between execution, management, leadership, and then you very soon get into middle management and you realize okay, there's a serial ladder, right?
Yeah.
You do this job, you climb to the next level, come to the next level. And then I was more interested in the more difficult projects. So if you look at my career, it's a little bit of a jungle gym, not a serial ladder.
And that's also, that's not really, usually people will try to avoid the difficult stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So, by the way, I just love the fact that this is why I do this podcast, because whenever, I'm sure you've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews, and you get straight to the point. Tell me about Rubrik. Thank you for talking about it. Your story, extremely inspiring. Literally the definition of upward mobility from where you came from and where you are now. It's amazing. When I hear stories like this, it gives me more motivation to want to hustle and make something out of this show.
I love that.
And by the way, let's talk about Rubrik, because we're in this beautiful studio. We're at the Rubrik headquarters in Palo Alto. Thank you for making this happen, by the way. I really, really appreciate it. Chief Transformation Officer, one of my favorite words, by the way. Simply explain your role and briefly, what does that mean to college-age students that are not tech experts?
Yep. So a Chief Transformation Officer, depending on which company, can have many different definitions. Here, and what I've done in the past, my job is as a builder. I build the go-to-market transformation of a company. So I come into a company, I look at where we are. So I came to Rubrik about a year after we went public, right? Publicly traded on NYSE. Now been here for a little over a year. So 2 years, after going public, Rubrik went from a single product company to a platform. So we now have multiple products within our platform. We were selling to a single sort of buyer within IT. We've now opened up our buying centers into security, into data teams. And so that requires how we go to market to be transformed. And recursively, that requires how Rubrik is building and structuring ourselves to meet that go-to-market. That also needs to be transformed.
Yeah.
So my job is to build all those modalities that allow Rubrik to sell to those buying centers. Those people know about us, build the tools, and train our sales team.
I mean, but think about if someone was to ask me, if I was being interviewed, usually I interview people, and someone was to ask me what's one word you think that is super crucial and beneficial for the success and for a company to scale? I would say it's transformation. Yep. So imagine being a Chief Transformation Officer. That's so cool. I love it.
Thank you.
Also, you've had amazing roles at other companies. You worked at Cisco for over a decade. You were a VP of marketing at Databricks. You were a CMO at Split. You were SVP, then you became EVP at Zscaler. How did you end up here at Rubrik?
Yeah.
Those experiences, did those teach you things, or did that make you feel like, oh, I kind of like this more, I don't like this more? I'm just curious how it all led to this.
So I think the best jobs are through your network, right?
Of course.
It's,
your network is your net worth?
Network is your...
Is it accurate?
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah. But definitely your network.
Yeah.
And, good people find good people, and so I would say, and when there's value congruence, right?
Yeah.
I, at this stage in my career, like I've worked for a CEO of probably, I think the last 15, 16 years I've worked for a CEO, right? And for the last, pretty much all of it, have been founder CEOs, right?
That's a dream
life. The people who, and so coming in at a time and, helping make changes when it's a founder-led company is also like very interesting, right? Because you're so close to the sun.
Founder-led companies, I feel like I feel like the person, if they're also the founder and the CEO, they just have so much more motivation because it's their baby.
Right. It's their baby and you're so close to the sun, right? Like, so for us, and so Bipul, I guess, reached out and we talked for over a year and more from an industry networking perspective. And then, there was just an alignment that, there was a potential to come do this. And I had done this, and I saw this as kind of the next space for me and my development and growth and what I could bring to the company. And so I said, all right, let's go do this.
You're too humble. You just make it seem so casually that he just calls you up like that. Like, come on.
We did. We networked, we talked.
No, that's amazing though. Like that's like...
Most of the time, it's like,
But you've also you've done so many great things at other companies. It makes you stand out, and you're like Rubrik is massively lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm lucky to be here, and I think part of the excitement is like all the opportunities we can create for our people,
100%.
Right, and also the peace of mind we can bring for our customers, right,
100%.
with what we do. So,
I'm curious, in your career, was there a certain defining moment where you knew that like, I need to focus on cybersecurity, and this is the big thing I want to do? Because in tech, there's so many different things you can do.
Yep.
You're going to go to market, you can do sales, marketing, you can be a software engineer. And I've noticed a pattern, like you're very passionate about cybersecurity, cyber resilience, making sure there's not bad actors, having safe, secure stuff. I'm curious, how did you figure out, like, was this a certain age you were in or a certain time in your career when you're like, this is what I want to go all in on this? Or did it kind of just be like, I'm naturally good at this, let me focus on this? Yeah,
so when it comes to enterprise, I mean, I've been in enterprise space, enterprise software for a majority of my career, right? Service provider enterprise. I mean, when I was at Databricks, I was actually their first non-founding exec. I ran all their go-to-market. And I was their first CMO. For example, I'd never been in the data analytics space, right? Mm-hmm. So there was so much to learn. There, and then open source monetization was a big part because we came out of open source. Mm-hmm. So figuring out how to actually productize, sell something that we have so easily given away and still be a good citizen and contribute to open source and yet create more performant technologies that we could then monetize. It's an art form, right? How to build that. So there was a lot of learning there. I hadn't been in that space, but that was a lot of doubling down to study, right? And then when I was going to Zscaler at that time, there was this like an exponential increase in cyber incidents. We were starting to see security wasn't just security. Security was actually impacting business viability. Before that, it was like, okay, this you hear about like nation state, you hear about threat actors, but like really people started to move to the cloud. The proliferation of mobile devices, everybody was either like transacting, doing banking, doing everything on cell phones, iPads, etc. We started to be a mobile society. We could work no longer just from our desks at the office. People are working from Starbucks on an airplane, etc. Yeah. So all of a sudden, like everything that had been built for security was no longer tenable, like it was evolving, right? Yeah. And so when that opportunity presented itself, I look at companies like this, right? I look at what's the market? What's the runway for the business? Is this business is there potential to make money? Yeah. Right? Like if we go double down in this space, I think about intellectual property when I'm looking at a company. Is there enough meat, like enough legs that this tech is going to go places? Because you can bring a go-to-market person. I hate to say this, but like, there's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig, right? If it's bad tech, it's super hard to like go make money out of bad tech, right? So that, and then the team, the founding team, what do they like? Will I be able to like do what I need to do? Get the recs, the funding, the budget, all of that, and then obviously if I'm reporting to the CEO, what that like chemistry is, right? Because I have to be. You have to put your feelings aside, and you have to be able to like work in an environment where some of them have actually never worked in a professional environment. They could be like a postdoc, PhD academic was never worked, but they've had this like brilliant idea. Databricks with 6 co-founders who were all professors and postdocs, right? From
I think
Berkeley.
one of them at least still teaches at Berkeley.
Yeah. Matei still teaches, I believe, at Stanford and Berkeley. So does Jan. So
so for a lot of people though, how do you put your feelings aside when you're young and you still you care a lot about your self-confidence and image and stuff?
Yeah, look, I think we're all human, right? Even as an adult, like when you get negative feedback, it hurts. And the natural tendency is to be defensive, right? To say, oh no, how do I get out of it? But there's a lot of growth and learning in that. Like, I believe, and I'm being a lifelong learner, right? Not knowing something doesn't make me embarrassed. Like, it motivates me to want to go learn and figure it out. Having that attitude versus like, oh, at this level, I know everything. And so it doesn't work that way. So you have to be able to put your feelings aside and go, even if you get asked what seems to you to be a very sophomoric question, understand that it's coming from a place that, people are vested and they want to know more, right? Like, I remember this like fascinating conversation with, when I was at Databricks, for example, I needed to go hire, I was running go-to-market marketing, I needed and all dev evangelism, I needed to hire a demand gen leader. Now, this is a data science company that believes that everything is, like, why would we not have data scientists on the team? We should be analyzing the data. We have no pipeline data, so there's nothing to analyze, right? So I was like going back and forth, like trying to justify why I need this headcount, right? And to anybody else, you'd just go, what the hell, right? But here, I actually like wrote a description and everything. And the chairman, he read an entire textbook on that weekend on what demand gen was, read a bunch of papers, came back and said, okay, now it makes sense what you're trying to do. So you have to be able to like...
Databricks seems super technical.
They're very technical. But my point is that like you could be so easily be offended, right? And be like, how could you second guess my ask? But you have to bring people along for the ride. Right? And people can be incredibly like brilliant, educated, but they haven't done this before. And that's my job, like to come in and like make sure I give you the peace of mind and like, build and execute on something that's absolutely gold standard, right?
What you said about like having an open mind, it reminds me of like how people say you shouldn't be a know-it-all, you should be a learn-it-all.
Yeah, that's
even it doesn't matter what level you get to.
Yeah.
And by the way, I love how intentional you are with the companies you go to and how you explained how you think about it. That's amazing. I'm curious, like, a lot of people use words like innovation or excellence and stuff like that. What does real transformation mean to you? If you were to go to a company and you saw real transformation, what would get you out of the bed and get you excited?
Real transformation for me is that our employees get to perform their day's work with the best tools and resources at their hand, right? And that means transforming, say, internal practices, removing technical debt, removing inertia, right? People shouldn't have to deal with a bunch of red tape or process or legacy systems, tooling processes just because that's the way it's been done before. You should always question the most efficient, an optimal way of doing something and, fastest path to getting to the outcomes that we want and creating impact, right? And often I think you find, like, how often do people find themselves busy, but are you busy dealing with process, I think this is where, like, we're seeing generative AI, in general, really move the needle. Like, so much of that inertia, that internal process, those work streams are being removed as we sort of start to look to automate some of this. People really have to start doing knowledge work now, right? More so than ever, right? So what gets me going? So that. And I think when we do that, the impact we can create, the speed up we can create externally is tremendous, right? Now, at the same time, this is where I think the true test of human potential comes into play, because with as we all leverage AI, we all lift all boats. But there's also things start to look very monochromatic. Everyone's producing the same stuff, right? So this is where I think the power of human creativity comes in, or true sort of intellect, right, and innovation. It's how do we differentiate ourselves now above all of that, right? That's the work. The work isn't like the process and the red tape.
You made it easier for me to go to the next question, because the question is, what leadership traits do you look for now in this new AI era? And then also, what do you look, kind of two questions in one, but also what do you look for now when you're hiring people? How do you find top talent with all this AI stuff happening?
Yeah. Look, first and foremost, I love looking for diamonds in the rough, right? I look for people who sometimes don't necessarily neatly fit a bucket. I also don't want to always hire people who have like this pristine playbook, because they rinse and repeat their playbook and they haven't demonstrated the ability to actually like evolve their playbook. I love playbooks. It means it gives you a frame of reference. I'm looking for thinkers, right? I'm looking for thinkers and doers. And so people that have intellectual curiosity, people who are lifelong learners, people who have grit. Grit is hard to come by, because you have to, when we're building like in this type of job, we're changing things. Right? Things that haven't been done before, things that have to be done differently, and we're do it really fast. And so, it requires people who can operate with like some level of chaos, a high level of chaos and uncertainty, but are like really excited about building something, learning, and like applying themselves, and then looking at this impact, right? 100%. So it's this closed loop feedback, I think, loop that I pride. So that's what I'm looking for. And I'm looking for people who are willing to come and say, you know what, I've been doing this, but I thought about these things, and I went out and like, incubated this and look at my outcomes, and how do we like encourage and make that mainstream? The other thing is I'm also looking for like leaders who are player coaches, right? I don't take a lot of, I don't like people taking a lot of pride in just managing and leading a team, right? I want my leaders to be individual contributors as much as they are managing and leading their team. Should be able to like do what your team can do.
Yeah,
right?
That's an amazing way to look at it. Also, I kind of feel like having a playbook as a young person is maybe like, don't you? I feel like you should have a playbook, but you should be open to being edited.
Of course,
right?
Always.
If it's set in stone, like that's not.
Yeah.
You
What's the learning?
Yeah.
Right?
Would you agree with that?
I do. I think having a playbook is a good thing. And just always be evolving that playbook, right?
Stay curious, stay hungry.
Right? Yeah. Think about what you could do differently. But at the end of the day, people are wired in a certain way, right? What is your passion, right? What gets you really excited? And I think when everything falls into place, it's not work anymore.
I know. That's how I feel when I do this podcast.
Yeah.
Everyone asks me, how do you do you ever, do you hustle so much? You get all these guests, you go to studios, you meet those people. I'm like, but it's fun for me. Yeah. But I mean, I also do think it does feel like work. But it's fun work, though.
Fun work. It's not tedious.
Like,
it's like, labor,
I don't want to do this and someone's making me do it,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's how it should be.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, as we wrap up here, these are the last two questions that I asked all my guests. The first one is, what's your all-time best advice for teens and young people in college right now who are watching?
Stay hungry. Stay hungry. Take the road less traveled. I know maybe your older sister, your older brother, somebody else did X, but if you think about just the COVID period, I have one kid that's actually just graduated college last year, one still in college, and one in high school, who will be a rising senior in the fall.
Nice.
All their experiences are different. I had one that went to college right at the end of the pandemic, right? Barely even luckily got an opportunity to walk for graduation with a mask, right? Had one. So the way technology has shifted, how AI learning has shifted, how the job market has shifted, everybody's experience is different in different cohorts, right? Yeah. So one person's reality is not your reality. My advice is stay super hungry. Yeah. Think about what makes you passionate. And put the work in. You have to put the work in. It doesn't come easy, right?
Yeah.
But there are always rewards for those who do. And you know what? Take the road less traveled. Look at you. You reached out to me for this podcast. I could have not responded.
Yeah.
Or I could have said no. But in the off chance that a person says yes, and then we
Make
get
it
to
happen.
meet, right? And so, like, you know, the worst thing that can possibly happen is someone's going to say no. So
I'd rather do it and get a
do
no
it.
than not do it.
Yeah.
Right?
You're so incredible. We're so incredibly blessed to have the opportunities that we have in this day and age, right?
Yeah.
And I would just be like, the world is your oyster. I know it looks very daunting when you're a young person because you have almost like opportunity fatigue, right? Choice fatigue. There's so much out there. But
And opinions from so many people
yes.
too. Or if this sibling did this person should I do that?
Right. But you know what?
Be yourself.
You know what your capabilities are.
Yeah.
Two, don't have that like inner monologue that like talks you out of doing things. For example, right? Like, you know, sometimes I think people don't want to be let down, and so we have this inner monologue that says, you know, I'm not going to try that because I'm not going to do really well. You know what? Give it a shot. So what?
Or you might find a teacher that makes you rethink the whole thing, right?
Or a boss.
Or a boss, yeah. That's amazing. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing that.
of
That was great advice for teens. Wonderful episode. Last question of the day. What was your favorite part of being a guest on the Ochakde show today?
You know what? I love to meet entrepreneurial people of you know, all ages, right?
Yeah.
And the best part of this is having this open dialogue with you, but I'm just so glad we got to meet, that
I know.
you reached out
100%.
and that we got to meet.
I also love how these interviews is not supposed to be like a typical journalist asking you
Yeah.
questions. Tell me about your Q3. Why is your stock? It's like
Can't tell ya.
Yeah, it's like it's supposed to be laid back, chill conversations. I'm sure the audience really enjoyed it. I'm excited to see all the amazing things you do at Rubrik. Thanks for
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for being a
having
guest
me.
on the
Yeah.
podcast, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.